This is KUGAN CASSIUS for IFLTV. We are in Riyadh. It is Riyadh season. It is BETERBIEV against BIVOL. I'm delighted to be joined by promoter Frank Warren. Frank, how are you first of all? Or how have you been?
I'm okay. Still got a bit of flu, but other than that, I'm okay.
You made it here to Riyadh. Frank, for boxing fans, this is arguably the best fight currently that could be happening in boxing. What's headlining the Riyadh season card this Saturday?
It is. I mean, they're two guys who've gone under the radar in the past, but this fight's is for the four belts. One fighter's got the most perfect record, 20 fights, 20 knockouts in BETERBIEV. And obviously BIVOL, great, another undefeated fighter, great fighter as well. You know, this is finally on, and it's a fight certainly for me as a boxing fan, I'm really, really looking forward to it. I think it's got the ingredients of a classic.
We've obviously gutted when this couldn't happen on the 5v5, but in some ways it's probably turned out well because they both events, the 5v5 and this fight here, probably deserve its own show.
I agree with that. You know, it's like, you know, it's the old story, isn't it? You know, out of bad comes good, and that's how it is.
Absolutely, and there's some great fights on the undercard. Obviously, Fabio Wardley and Fraser Clark's rematch. We've got a great opportunity for Jack Massey, a very difficult fight against Jay Apataya. Yeah, there's some really good fights on this card.
Listen, Jack Massey, if he gets his tactics right, he can win that fight. It wouldn't shock me. I mean, you know, Jay's a good fighter, and everybody, you know, speaks very highly of him. But there was a couple of little chinks in his last fight in the armour that I see, and you know, they could be exploited. We'll see. But again, it'll be a competitive and a good fight.
Absolutely. Right, Frank, just coming away from the card for a second, obviously it seems a long time, but not a long time ago, obviously, since a spectacular night at Wembley for Daniel Dubois against Anthony Joshua. Now the dust has settled. We've heard some comments from Eddie, who's actually behind us at the minute doing an interview about the rematch. He said that they will make their position on that clear imminently, but as far as you're concerned, is this rematch going to take place?
Look, if they want it and the terms are right, it'll be done. You know, I have no problem with it at all. I had no problem with a fight in the first place for the first fight. So, yeah, I have. That's not a problem for us at all. But obviously, we've got to sort out monies and things like that. But yeah, absolutely.
And if it is to happen, a strong possibility that it could be happening here in Riyadh.
That we'll have to determine. But that'll get sorted out. You know, once we know where AJ is, and once we agree to terms, then it'll all fall into place. So I'm and so with me, that's an open door. You're pushing the door open.
And I'm assuming Daniel Dubois and Team Dubois are kind of open to the best available opportunity, whatever that is, whether that's AJ rematch or. You know.
He wants to maximise his position now as being the IBF World Champion, and I'm sure the terms will be lucrative, and that'll make it happen if AJ wants it.
How life-changing was that moment for Daniel Dubois?
Massively life-changing. You know, he's had a hard 13 months. He's probably fought better opposition than most fighters out there in that period of time. 4 really tough fights, you know, against undefeated Usyk, which, you know, was controversial and he lost. And then he fought undefeated Babe Miller, who's a top 10 ranked fighter. Hrgovic, mandatory challenger for the interim title, again undefeated, beat him. And Joshua, who was 2-time world champion, and he beat him. But each of those fights, he was an underdog. So, you know, he's shown a lot of mettle and grit, and I'm proud of him for what he's done. I'm certainly proud of his last performance, and he's the guy to beat now. He's the guy to beat. I mean, he's a young man, and he's a serious unit. When he's in action, he's letting those bombs go. You know, like I always said, he's probably one of the best finishers out there. I think the only other fighter that's, you know, had the amount of fights again in a short space of time is Nick Ball, with the 3 fights he had. You know, two world championship challenges, which he should have had both the belts, and his defence against world-class fighters, real good quality fighters.
Just coming on to Tyson Fury, who was present at your Liverpool show. Obviously, a great win for Nick Ball on that as well, which we'll talk about in a second. But Fury was there. Obviously, gave a couple of interviews. Obviously, everyone's still. Well, not saying anyone's obviously, or even Fury's even thinking about anything else apart from Alexander Usyk. But the Anthony Joshua question keeps coming up to Fury, and yeah, he said what he says. You know.
Well, look. Obviously it's a fight everybody wanted to see. We'll see what happens. You know, Tyson's got a big job on his hands on the 21st of December here in Riyadh, and I really do fancy him to reverse the decision. It was a split decision last time, very close fight, but I expect him to win this time, and then we'll see what happens. In the meantime, you know, in the next couple of weeks, maybe even less, we'll know what Daniel's going to be doing. So it's all up in the air, and you know, and see what AJ's going to do, and then how it pans out. One thing's for sure, the heavyweight division's so lively at the moment. Such good fights are being made, and yeah, it's exciting times. Very, very exciting times for everybody.
There is a lot going on, which leads me on to the situation between Aj-Dubois and Martin Bakole, which will determine kind of what path possibly Dubois will have to go at some point regarding his mandatory. What can you tell us about that?
Well, I think the IBF have called it as a final eliminator. That whenever it goes on, it goes on. And in the meantime, Daniel, he had his mandatory defence against AJ in his last fight. So when his next mandatory is due, whoever the winner in that fight is will be the mandatory. And I haven't got a problem with it at all. Not at all.
It's an interesting fight between Bakole, obviously coming off that great win against Jared Anderson before, and Aj-Dubois has had two brilliant wins in his last two fights.
He's a good fighter, Dubois. Yeah. Don't disregard him. He's a good fighter. And, you know, that fight with him and Bakole happens. Bakole will have his hands full. Don't worry about that. He's a very, very good boxer, and he's fast. He's got fast hands, and he's a tough guy. I like him.
Frank, we saw that the WBO have ordered Janibek and Hamza Shiraz. I think it was from yesterday, 15 days. Oil goes to purse bids. What can you tell us about that situation?
They've ordered it, and that's a great opportunity now for Hamza, and we'll see where we go with it. You know, it's not going to be a problem making the fight. Bob is with Top Rank, so I'll speak to Bob, and I'm quite sure we can sort that out fairly quickly if we need to do so. So we'll see.
Just offering a reverse on this, we know what a dangerous fight that is against Janibek. Is that the right fight for this point in Hamza's kind of progression?
We'll see. We'll see. You know, I've not spoken to him about it, so we'll have a talk. That he's away at the moment. I'm sure he'll be out here for the fight, and we'll see. But it's a good fight. There's no doubt about that, and they're both good fighters. And you know, Hamza's getting better and better with each fight. He's had a couple of fight before last was a big test for him against Ammo, and he come through it. And he had a couple of little sticky moments in the fight that he showed what he was all about. So we'll see. But all my guys who we're working with, all of them, they're all getting into good positions now. It's all coming to fruition. All the investment that we've made, not just money but time and guiding them and bringing them through, and they're all on the cusp of something really good. We've got a great roster of fighters with us at Queensbury, and there's, as I say, some really exciting things happening.
Just aside from the Hamza Shiraz and Janibek situation, obviously Eubank is in action this week. If he does come through that, Frank, are you going to revisit at some point the possibility of Shiraz and Eubank?
Well, when we met, he was pissed off that I called him out, saying about, you know, it's two ways to look, you know, to not take a fight. One is to price yourself out, the other one's to say you don't want it. And he said he never received the offer that was made. Okay. Which is pretty surprising, because the offer was made. He showed up with his two advisors, or he showed up with Men Shalom and with that Maz, you know, who's his advisor, who's his advisor.
Okay. I mean, the offer was kind of put out there quite, not publicly, but that in excess of $5 million, that line was quite publicly put out there.
He knew nothing about it. which, you know, why would he lie about that?
So could that be revisited at some point next year, depending on?
Let's see what, I mean, you know, let's see what happens. He should be facing one of our guys, either him or Denzel. He should be facing, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. You know, next year's going to be very interesting. Certainly, it'll be interesting for him.
Okay, Frank, the undercard for Fury and Usyk was announced last night, quite late, as we're used to announcements being that kind of late. But some really interesting fights on there.
Good fights.
Yeah, Dennis McCann and Peter McGrail kind of sticks out for me, really does on that. And then Moses Atama against Dempsey McKean as well.
You know, that was mandated, the fight with between Dennis and McGrail, and that was called for by the Border Control for the British title and the EBU for the European. So it's done. It's a good fight. It's a good quality fight. They're both based up in Liverpool, so there's a bit of a, you know, it's not just going to be about the European champion. Who's going to be the boss of Liverpool in that weight division, and that's a good fight for Moses. You know, Dempsey's a tough guy. You see that with his only one defeat on his record, and that was, I think, winning 12 rounds sitting with Hrgovic, who was undefeated at the time. And you know, we all know how good Hrgovic is. You see him in those first couple of rounds against Daniel, when Daniel fought him in the interim. So he's a dangerous opponent for him. He's still a teenager, but it's a step up, and we believe he's ready to take that on.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much more happening before December 21st, but we kind of know where that's going now, which will kind of round off 2024. Frank, we saw that Boxer had put out that Anthony Yarde will feature on their card at the Copper Box next Saturday, the 19th. Can you just kind of clarify your situation at the moment with Anthony Yarde regarding that? My situation is that we had matching rights. And provided all what they say we were to match is adhered to, then that'll be the end of that. If it's not, then obviously that's a different ball game. That's where we are with it, and that's it. That's what the position's been all along. We had a contractual commitment, and he had a contractual obligation. How many fights was that left over, Frank? Sorry? How many fights was that left over? It was matching rights. If you remember, his last two fights on his contract, we tried to make, we'd give him a warm-up fight as such, and then we wanted to make him against Bivol or Buatsi, and we negotiated with Josh Buatsi, it's his team, and agreed terms on it. And he could have had the Bivol fight, but Lyndon Arthur went in after he knocked it back, and he had another warm-up fight. Then it was another warm-up fight, and that's not the direction I wanted to be going in. So it is what it is. Disappointing though for yourself? I'm past that. I think I said that months and months ago. You know, all what it was and what it is now is two different things. And you know, we move on, we move forward. I mean, you know, we're very blessed with what we do and the fighters we're involved with, and the ones who are committed to us always do well. We deliver for them time and time again, win or lose. Okay, I did ask Eddie about this yesterday. We're expecting something to be happening amongst yourselves in February. He wouldn't tell us too much about it yesterday. I gave him all the possibilities of whether that could be Aj-Dubois Rematch with kind of a 5v5 element on that, and he was very coy over it, which is not like Eddie, but he was. Can you shed anything on that February announcement? Not really, because that's the point of having an announcement, isn't it? If I tell you what's going on, then we basically kill it, don't we? So no, but it's going to be, everyone's going to love it. It's going to be something special. I'm assuming we're looking at something that's going to topple the last 5v5 event. Well, for him, he's looking at that. I don't know, at me, I'm quite pleased with the last one. He was. You could see the eagerness in his eyes that he can't afford to let you trounce and topple him again. Well, look, it's, you know, it's the fight business. It's everything goes in circles, and you know, the older you get, the more you know that. We make competitive fights.
you know, and it's not about making, you know, it's looking at each fight individually and picking who you think can win the fight. That's what it's all about. We've got a couple this weekend coming on, haven't we? We've got the first ever women's world title fight to take place here in Saudi and Riyadh. Historical time for them. We've got that on. There's you know, quite a few fights coming up. Interesting one. We've got Liam Davis in with his man. Was it Masood? We've got I think we've got one in December that we're looking at. So there's, you know, it's the collaboration between the two companies and the fights that we're making have been brilliant. I can't complain about the fights, but they have been good fights. They've all been competitive fights.
What do you make of his little back and forth each week with Oscar De La Hoya? What do you just sit back and just chuckle to yourself, Frank? They seem to have a little thing every week.
Well, I'm pleased I'm out of it. I'm pleased I'm out of it. Now, what do I think of it? It's the same old bullshit, isn't it? I mean, it's just a different week, you know. It is what it is. And I mean, look, boxing at the end of the day, all that stuff on the periphery, all the, you know, the stuff, that garbage that we come out with and goes between us, that's all one thing. What people care about is the fights. As long as the fights are getting made and they're good fights, that's all we need. And our sport's on a major high at the moment, a major high.
And 2025 is looking to beat this year.
What's being lined up is fantastic. I mean, we talked earlier about some of our guys challenging or defending world titles, and they're cracking fights in their own right. I mean, we've got some really, really good shows lined up.
Okay, well, Frank, you do have a queue of people waiting to speak to you here.
Is it oats and barley there? Yeah, right. Okay.
I've just got one more question, actually. Sorry, wanted to ask you. What have you made of this thing with Conor McGregor and Bukayo Saka at the Emirates game the other day? You seen that? When McGregor come onto the pitch, and now everyone was saying that he shouldn't have been on the pitch, like trying to play fight with Bukayo Saka. Have you seen that?
I did see it. Someone sent me that. Yeah, I thought it's quite.
Have they got a point? Because
what, on the pitch?
Yeah, we're just messing about. Obviously, Bukayo Saka, if he'd kind of injured him.
Oh, you mean injured him?
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you meant that. I thought you meant being actually on the pit, messing the grass up. No, yeah, they got a good point with that. Good point with that. But I'll tell you, he's a tough guy, Bukayo. I mean, he gets enough lumps, doesn't he, over every game? People trying to take him out. No, it was good fun. It's all good fun.
I just see it all going wrong.
I didn't know he was an Arsenal fan. McGregor, is he an Arsenal fan?
I don't know if he's an Arsenal fan. I know he was there, but I'm not sure.
He's not an Arsenal fan. He shouldn't be on our pitch. What's going on? Conor, that's not on me, old son.
Frank Warren, thank you very much for talking to IFLTV, and we look forward to a great week here in Riyadh.
Lovely.